Good to see you all here at the 4th Annual Ypsilanti Songwriting Festival. I'm Martin Van Dyke from Ann Arbor's 107.1. A real pleasure to be here. Oh, thank you. Thanks. I'm honored to be here for the 4th consecutive year at this great event. I've had an absolute blast the previous 3 years, and I'm sure tonight is going to be just as much fun. In the past, we've talked to Jason and the Scorchers, and John Langford of the Mekons, and Freddie Johnston. And tonight with us is one of the most passionate and literate singer-songwriters who we've ever had the pleasure of growing up. I mean, this man's music, his first album came out, some good 35 years or so ago, and he's got R&B influences, and there's Motown influences in his music, and he's got the fire and energy of punk rock, and he is a brilliant man, Mr. Graham Parker.
Yep, all righty.
Graham, welcome to Ypsilanti and our beautiful festival here. Let's talk about this new album. The whole story about imaginary television is pretty surreal and bizarre. How did the concept of this album come to you? How did it all come together?
Well, recently I just signed a deal with a publishing company named Primary Wave, and they like administrate my catalog. And they're a kind of smart company because some of the people working in, so especially the head honcho, used to work for Island Records. So there's quite a lot of people involved with publishing now who realize that CD sales are over, you know, for most of us. Yeah. To all intents and purposes.
That's true. Yeah.
But publishing, songs they go on and on, you know. That's why you have to suffer really bad songs on adverts and things, because they just don't die. So, you know, their main aim is to sign lots of artists and try and get their material used on TV and films. You know, that's basically the name of the game now, about how to make a living out of songs. And they signed, Nirvana, what's his name, Kurt Cobain. They bought a half share for $55 million. This is the kind of money. Lucky old Courtney, you know. I mean, and they've got a share in Hall & Oates, and they got Steven Tyler. What's his name? Steve Earle. You know, so they bought into a lot of stuff. And I said, well, I don't want to sell any of mine. I'll do admin deal, so they get a percentage, and you show me what you can do. So I said, I've got no faith that I'll get any of my songs used. It's just not going to happen, you know. And they're like real fan. Oh, what are you saying? So they were, you know, into this idea, and as it happens, they've had a few of my songs used on TV shows since I've been with them. Yeah. You know, like you get a minute in the background and nobody hears it, and I make more money than I do from the entire album sales. Thank you. And you're not even embarrassed because nobody hears it, you know. So it's like, that's kind of where it's at. But anyway, one of their representatives sent me an email one day for a show that was on one of the major channels that was coming up, an up-and-coming show. They wanted what's called a main title, which is a theme song, okay, for a dramedy or some comedy show. I don't know what it was, but a serial kind of show. And I liked the idea of what the plot was, this particular show. It sounded interesting to me. It was going to be on the Showtime channel. So I thought, well, I've never written a song to order before. It's not what I do. But something about it inspired me, and I wasn't writing songs right then. The last album, Don't Tell Columbus, had been out over a year, so I immediately wrote something. It took me about half an hour to write a song, a minute and a half long. That's all they wanted. So I went to a local studio and recorded it, and put a synthesizer drum beat with it, and the engineer plays keyboards. I put bass guitar, did it all, and it's, I thought, that is a catchy tune, you know, that is all right. So I sent it to them, MP3'd it to them, and it didn't get used. But people said, we like it, but it's, you know, we're using something else. And of course they used some trendy young songwriter, you know, it's typical. Yeah. But anyway, it got some attention, they liked it, and I thought, well, I've got a song there, all I have to do is make it 3 minutes long now, and it's, you know, it's pretty good. So I just thought, okay, that's anything that gets you writing, because I'd rather do anything than write songs, you know. You're trying to write songs, someone comes around and says, you want to go for a beer? And it's like, oh no, you're writing songs. No, I'm not. It's okay. So, you know, you'll do anything. It's because it's like falling off a precipice, you know, it's the worst thing in the world, you know, because you feel like your whole life depends on exposing your weaknesses, and, you know, maybe I'll be completely lame this time, I won't be good, you know, it's all over for me, you know. So writing songs is not something I look forward to. So anything that kicks me into it and turns that thing in the brain into the creative process and puts you in the tunnel is a good thing. So a few weeks later, this same rep from Primary Wave sent another TV show plot, and from another show. And I said, you know, I looked at it and thought, that's okay, I'll have a go. So I wrote another song. I thought, this is catchy as hell. This is really good. And so, same thing, they ignored it and used some lame instrumental. Because probably the TV network probably looked at the show and thought, this might not fly, let's go cheap. Let's get somebody to write a piano thing for $1,000, you know. Because they do that kind of stuff all the time. You never know where you stand with all this stuff. That's one thing I already know about these things. So anyway, but now I had another song, 40 seconds long. That's all they wanted. So I thought it was so catchy. So one of those songs is called See Things My Way, and that turns out on the album. The other one's called Always Greener, which are extremely catchy pop songs in my view. So I thought, well, who cares, okay? Off I went, and I thought, you know what, why don't I write TV shows, plots for TV shows, and write songs to go with them? And that way I can't get rejected, right? Nobody's going to reject me. So I did that, and then I wrote, so in there you'll see you get the plots for the shows instead of lyrics, and you get fake reviews as well. Like, one, you know, riveting, says USA Today. You know, you must be kidding me, the Christian Science Monitor, you know, don't let the children see this, things like that. So I had an awful lot of fun doing it, and I had an album. You know, there it was, and I just flew through the writing process. I really did, and usually there's a lot more pain involved, but this I put it as if I was writing for TV shows. And, you know, it's strange because there was a review somewhere, I think it was on Amazon, where the guy said, that's what Graham Parker says this is about, but it's a lot of rubbish. These songs are really deep. This is really serious, emotional stuff. He's, you know, it's written, and I'm like going, okay, all right, well, that wasn't the intent. But, you know, when I write stuff is going to come out, it's not going to be a surface kind of thing anyway. But, you know, it was just a great hook to get me writing. So it was really a lot of fun to write. But I think you can only do it once. I don't think I'll do it for the next album.
Repeat the concept.
Right.
So songwriting, as you say, is something you kind of have to push yourself. It's like pushing yourself off a cliff to do.
Yeah, it is difficult. I mean, it was when I started, I was so inspired because I was starting to find these ideas. We're going back to about 1974, 73, 74, when I started to find my style. And what had happened to me was I was coming out of the end of progressive music, you know, which everybody had been, you know, into really from all of the psychedelic acts, you know, and I was a hippie really, basically. I mean, I'd hitchhiked around Spain and France and Morocco and had long hair and, you know, did all that stuff, as it were, and was into, you know, Floyd and Hendrix and you know, basically, you know, music that didn't have a regular 4/4 beat for the most part, you know. But as I was coming out of that, I got back into earlier influences, which was the Stones and, you know, maybe the Beatles, and especially what you mentioned, Motown and Stax and soul music. So, and Bob Marley had emerged with Catch a Fire. And when I was 14 or 15, I was into ska music. It was an underground music in England. Prince Buster and the All-Stars are really serious stars, you know, ska music, the Scatolites. So that was my inspiration for writing. I thought, nobody's doing that. There's no one around really doing that. So I locked into that and wrote songs, and it was very inspiring, but it was still hard because I wanted them to be the best songs anybody was ever writing. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be like the Beatles and the Stones made albums where every song was good. There was no throwaways. Whereas progressive music, people will go into the studio with 3 songs and then jam the rest, man, you know. So it made for a lot of weak records, you know.